What's up, gamers? Trickstar here, formerly known as Lord Skeleton. I just wanted to talk about the Sneeko versus Moist Critical debate if you haven't heard of it. If you haven't heard, shortly after the whole Chris Tyson leaks, Moist Critical debated Sneeko over the whole age of consent situation, while Sneeko claiming it should be the age of development. Now, for more context, Sneeko is a commentator or streamer of sorts. A very infamous one, I'll tell you that. And Moist Critical is also a commentator who basically just goes on YouTube, addresses some kind of drama or news, and then just ends. Now, basically, Chris Tyson from Mr. Beast was recently exposed for messaging minors and purchasing forms of art that should not be purchased. Now, halfway in Moist Critical's video, he addresses that many people are upset that he didn't address it immediately. And in his defense, the situation was still being unfolded. But he claims that Sneeko was one of the main targeters against Charlie, who is Moist, and I'll be referring to him that way. You can watch his video for more information, but basically, Sneeko was attacking him on not addressing Chris's situation immediately. And there's also clips of Sneeko supporting child marriage, claiming that as long as a kid is sexually mature, that it's okay for them to be married.
Age of consent should be maturity. It's not even 18 in most states. Why do you even believe that? It's because in Hollywood, it's 18, so that gets pushed everywhere. Most places, 16. And if you question that, then they call you a pedo. I believe the age of consent is the age of maturity. It should be called the age of marriage. Age of consent implies that you're going to have out of wedlock. I think it's better that people get married at 16, 17 than to have a bunch of premarital until they're 30 and they're washed up and then they get jaded and they're on birth control and they have dried up eggs. I think that's better for society.
A kid should be allowed to marry in order to prevent premarital sex. Now listen, as a Christian, I don't support fornication as much as the next guy. But on no grounds should a kid be able to marry. First of all, let little children be little children. Little children don't know right from wrong. Being children is them growing up in their innocence and learning how the world around them works. They're children. In that point of life, they are learning how the world works. They are learning right from wrong. They should not be given hard choices that will impact their life at such a young age. They should use that young age to learn how those choices affect their lives, or at least grow into a point where they can understand it. Okay, look. I'd say prepubescent is them growing up, learning how the world works, and then teenage years is them learning that their choices have consequences. At least that's my experience. Secondly, while it doesn't explicitly say it, the Bible does prohibit a child from going into marriage. Ezekiel 16 verses 7 through 8 in English Standard Version. Verse 7, I made you flourish like a plant of the field, and you grew up and became tall and arrived at full adornment. Your breasts were formed and your hair had grown, yet you were naked and bare. When I passed by you again and saw you, behold, you were at the age for love, and I spread the corner of my garment over you and covered your nakedness. I made my vow to you and entered into a covenant with you, declares the Lord God. You became mine. In a nutshell, the context for this verse is God, I think, is describing Israel as a faithless bride. And with these two verses, basically God says that in verse 7, your breasts were formed and your hair had grown. Prior to that, it says, and you grew up and became tall and arrived at full adornment. So God is saying that a bride is basically an adult woman, a tall, luscious woman with large breasts. Okay, I'm getting heavy myself. Basically someone who's developed into adulthood. And in verse 8 it says, when I passed by you again and saw you, behold, you were at the age for love. So again, a bride is someone who is at the age of adulthood, fully developed into an adult, someone who pays taxes, right? And then Mark chapter 5 verses 22 to 23. Then came one of the rulers of the synagogue, Jairus by name, and seeing him, he fell at his feet, him being Jesus, and implored him earnestly, saying, my little daughter is at the point of death. Come and lay your hands on her, so that she may be well in life. Now, before someone takes this out of context, by lay your hands on her, he's saying that he trusts Jesus to bring her back to life. Secondly,
12 is too young for me. Yes.
Well, for you, do you think 12 is too young in general? I feel like that should be an easy answer.
12 is too young in general, correct? Because,
Okay.
yes.
And I don't
But
think you're
I want
coming at
to
this from that
define,
angle.
but what you're saying, your definition of adult is not even the actual definition. Do you know what the definition of child is? Like, anybody watching this can Google it. You can Google it too. The definition of child is somebody who has not reached puberty yet. That's the definition.
Yeah, and then you get into like the abibophile or whatever as opposed to file, and those are all.
I don't know. I have no idea what those terms are. I don't know what that is, but I'm saying that's the actual definition. When somebody reaches maturity, it's based off of biological and physical maturity.
at the time of this writing, or of the story, Jairus' daughter is implied to be 12 years old. So 12 was still considered little children during Bible times. And finally, Songs of Solomon chapter 8 verses 8 and 10, English Standard Version. Others, we have a little sister, and she has no breasts. What shall we do for our sister on the day when she is spoken for? Verse 10. This is from the bride. I was a wall, and my breasts were like towers. Then I was in his eyes one who finds peace. The verses indicate that unless children are fully developed into adulthood, they cannot marry. Personally, I think they should raise the age to 25. That makes the most sense. And besides, I think some scientists say that 25 is the age where a man or woman is fully developed, at least physically. For the others, they were saying a little sister who has no breasts indicate that the child has not gone through puberty nor physical development. And the bride says, I was a wall and my breasts were like towers. Then I was in his eyes as one who finds peace. Saying that she herself was a fully developed human and fit for marriage. Now, going away from Sneako's take, Charlie says, now you can tell I got this debate footage from a YouTuber called Tom Dark, or Turkey Tom, who I will also credit in the description. He's a great YouTuber. And thirdly, Charlie has a really hard time defending himself in this debate. Now, if you go to watch Tom Dark's video on this...
Do you believe that somebody can go through hormone therapy? Can they change their gender if they're a child?
I think that's totally fine as long as everyone is consenting, as you agree with.
You can just see Sneako's glee as he realizes how bad this is for Charlie. Look.
You can tell that Charlie is not really the type for debating. He states as you can see in his videos, he's used to making a video and going into his research and then stating it. But really, when it's up front, he's not really used to it, as far as I've seen in Tom Dark's video. He doesn't defend or make arguments of why children should be 18. But for this point, I'm trying to bring up that he defends that children should be able to change their gender. Now let me further explain. Charlie says that children cannot consent to marriage even if everyone is okay. And he's right there. Where he's wrong is that he says that children should children are allowed to transition as long as everyone is okay. It goes without saying that there's biological problems with changing one's gender. But this is one L take from Charlie. And also in the Bible it states God made man and woman in his image. Man and woman only, no in between. Man and woman. It takes a man and a woman to make a child. Right, you get my point. So in a nutshell, Sneeko supports child marriage. Charlie supports child transitioning. Both are wrong about this. And the Bible opposes both arguments. Yeah, that's it. Have a good day, guys.